The dealer's reckoning. The first snowflakes of winter drifted down from the sky as the stranger entered Darkwood, a town so small that it seemed the wind might blow it away. He rode a black stallion, its breath heavy and visible in the chill air. No one saw him arrive, and yet word of his presence spread like wildfire. He strode into the dimly lit saloon. A tall, gaunt man with deep-set, black eyes that seemed to swallow the light. A deck of playing cards flickered between his nimble fingers. He was the dealer, the one the rumors spoke of, the one who held the cursed dead man's hand. The saloon was eerily quiet, the usual din of laughter and shouting replaced with hushed whispers and sidelong glances. As the dealer took his seat at the backroom poker table, a chill ran down the spine of every man present. "I've come to play," the dealer announced, his voice smooth as silk yet icy as the wind outside. "Who will join me?" Rumors of the dead man's hand were enough to keep most away, but there were always those who thought they could beat the dealer at his own game. Those who believed they could outsmart fate. They were wrong. One by one they joined the dealer, each believing themselves to be different, smarter than the rest, and one by one they met their doom. For to play against the dealer, this cursed hand was to sign your own death warrant. When the first man fell, his eyes rolled back into his head, and blood trickled from his ears. The townsfolk gasped, but the dealer merely chuckled as if he had anticipated this outcome. Along with each subsequent death, his laughter grew louder and the darkness in his eyes deeper. It wasn't long before the townsfolk began to feel the effects of the curse. The very around them seemed to grow thicker, heavier, as if some malignant force had infiltrated their homes, their lives. The dealer, however, only grew stronger. Desperation set in as the body count rose. Among the living was a man named Jack, who had lost his brother to the cursed game. Consumed by grief and a thirst for vengeance, Jack began to dig into the dealer's past, determined to uncover the source of his power and bring him down. On Jack's search led him to an old leather-bound journal buried deep in the archives of the Darkwood library. The brittle pages told a tale of black magic and ancient rituals, of a pact forged with an otherworldly entity. The dealer, it seemed, had struck a bargain. He would deliver souls to the creature in exchange for eternal life and unmatched skill at the card table. Armed with this knowledge, Jack knew he had to confront the dealer. He felt fear gnawing at the edges of his mind, but he steeled himself and entered the saloon, ready to face his enemy. Here, the air crackled with tension as Jack approached the backroom. The dealer looked up, his black eyes meeting Jack's steely gaze. "Ah," the dealer said, a twisted smile on his lips. "You've come to play." Jack nodded. "I have, but not by your rules. I am a secret dealer. I know how you've cheated death, and I am to put an end to it." A hush fell over the saloon as Jack pulled out the journal, revealing the dealer's dark pact. The dealer's face grew pale, the fear he had long kept at bay now rising to the surface. Jack challenged the dealer to one final game, with the highest stakes of all. If Jack won, the dealer would release the souls he had collected and relinquish his cursed power. If the dealer won, Jack would forfeit his own soul, as well as those of his entire family. The dealer hesitated, the stakes higher than he had ever dared imagine, but with the darkness of the entity at his back, he reluctantly agreed. The air grew thick with tension as the cards were dealt. Sweat beaded on the brows of the players and the specters alike. Each hand seemed to stretch on for an eternity, as the fate of Darkwood and the souls of the lost hung in the balance. The dealer's confidence returned as the game progressed, his icy smile widening with each hand. But Jack remained stoic, his eyes focused, his determination unwavering. Finally, the last hand was dealt. The fate of Darkwood rested on the turn of a single card. With a shaky hand, Jack revealed his cards. A full house. The crowd gasped, but the dealer only laughed, certain of his victory. As he began to reveal his own hand, the laughter died in his throat. Laid out before him was not the dead man's hand, but a mere pair of shoes. A terrible howl echoed through the saloon as the souls trapped by the dealer's pact were set free. The dark energy that had plagued the town dissipated, replaced by a feeling of lightness and hope. The dealer's body, finally subject to the ravages of time, withered and crumbled to dust before their very eyes. The curse of the dead man's hand had been broken, and Darkwood was free. Jack, The hero who had faced the darkness and prevailed was celebrated by the townsfolk. Though their losses were great, they took solace in the knowledge that their loved ones' souls had been saved from eternal torment. As life slowly returned to normal in Darkwood, the tale of the dealer and his cursed hand became legend. A cautionary tale whispered around campfires and in the dim corners of saloons. And Jack, who had stared into the abyss and emerged victorious, would forever be remembered as the man who had saved them all from the dealer's reckoning. The Gambler's Lament. In the shadow of the Appalachian Mountains, a once prosperous mining town languished, a place where dreams went to die, choked out by the dust and despair that filled the air. It was here that Travis, a gambler down on his luck, called home. He was a desperate man, consumed by a hunger for the next big win. When whispers of the legendary dead man's hand reached his ears, Travis saw his chance at redemption. He knew the tales of its dark power, of the curse that clung to it like a ravenous beast. But the promise of wealth and glory far weighed the warnings. Under the cloak of night, Travis crept to the guarded resting place of the Hand, a mausoleum deep within the heart of the old cemetery. He slipped past the iron gates, the eerie silence punctuated only by his own shallow breaths. The cold stones seemed to watch him as he made his way to the crypt, and the air grew heavier with each step. Inside the crypt, the Hand lay encased in a glass coffin, cards yellowed with age and stained with blood. With trembling fingers, Travis shattered the glass and snatched up the hand, the foul taste of victory filling his mouth. In the days that followed, the curse began to take hold. Travis's friends and family suffered gruesome fates, accidents that defied explanation, sudden and inexplicable illnesses, and encounters with vengeful spirits that left them broken, both in body and spirit. As the darkness tightened its grip, Travis himself was plagued by horrifying visions, haunted by the faces of those who had once possessed the Hand. Now twisted by agony and rage, he knew he had to act, to confront the curse that he had unleashed upon those he loved. Travis turned to the town's library, scouring ancient tomes and crumbling manuscripts, seeking answers to a curse that seemed to defy time itself. His research led him to a terrible truth. The curse could not be broken, but it could be passed on. Travis recoiled at the thought of damning another soul to this wretched existence, but the weight of his guilt grew heavier with each new horror that befell his loved ones. The visions intensified, driving him to the brink of madness. The vengeful spirits that haunted him whispered dark promises in his ear, their voices like jagged glass. They spoke of a ritual, a way to transfer the curse to another, a way to save his family. Torn between his conscience and his love for his family, Travis made his choice. He would sacrifice his soul, damning himself to eternal torment, if it meant saving those he held dear. In a candlelit cellar, Travis performed the ritual, his heart heavy with sorrow and regret. He called forth the spirits of those who had once possessed the Hand, offering himself as their new host. As they accepted his sacrifice, the darkness enveloped him, his screams swallowed by the shadows. His loved ones, freed from the curse's grasp, were left to mourn their losses, forever haunted by the knowledge of the price Travis had paid for their salvation. The dead man's hand, its curse temporarily sated, vanished into the darkness, waiting for its next unwitting victim. As for Travis, he was left to wander the earth as a tormented spirit, his soul forever bound to the cursed hand that had sealed his fate. The Gambler's Lament echoed through the ages, a chilling reminder of the terrible price of greed and the power of love. The Hangman's Noose. Dusty Gulch was a town on the edge, teetering between the lawless frontier and the tenuous grasp of civilization. It was a place where the wind whispered secrets and where shadows hid dark deeds. When a series of gruesome murders began to terrorize the citizens, whispers of the dead man's hand and its curse grew louder, spreading fear like a cancer through the community. As the body count rose, the townspeople looked to their hangman Jeremiah for justice. A quiet man with a haunted past, Jeremiah had long ago fled the specter of his own sins, but the curse of the dead man's hand was a secret he could not escape, for he had played a role in its creation. Years before, he had hanged a man named Elias Calloway, a gambler and sorcerer who had woven the dark power of the dead man's hand into the noose that had taken his life. As Elias swung from the gallows, he had cursed the town and all who lived in it, his dying breath a promise of retribution. With each new murder, the weight of his guilt grew heavier on Jeremiah's shoulders. He knew he must confront the darkness he had helped unleash to right the wrongs of his past and save the town he had come to call home. His quest for redemption led him through the dusty streets of Dusty Gulch, searching for clues that might lead him to the heart of the curse. He scoured old newspapers and town records, spoke to the families of the victims, and tried to piece together the twisted puzzle that was Elias Calloway's vengeance. In the dead of night, Jeremiah stood before the grave of Elias Calloway, seeking answers from the man he had sent to the gallows. As he stared at the weathered headstone, he felt a cold presence at his back, a chilling touch that seemed to seep into his very soul. "What do you want from me?" Jeremiah whispered, his voice trembling with fear and despair. The ghostly form of Elias Calloway appeared before him, his eyes filled with an otherworldly malice. "You seek to undo the curse you helped create, Hangman. Very well, but know that the price of redemption is steep, and the path is fraught with danger." Elias revealed a horrifying truth. The curse could be lifted, but only by the one who had helped create it. Jeremiah would have to retrace his steps to relive the sins of his past and ultimately face the noose himself. With a heavy heart, Jeremiah set out on his harrowing journey. He revisited the scenes of his past, each step a painful reminder of the man he had once been. At last, he found himself standing beneath the gallows, the noose that had taken Elias Calloway's life still swinging gently in the breeze. As he climbed the wooden steps, the spirits of his past victims gathered around him, their eyes filled with sorrow and hope. They knew that only Jeremiah could set them free, but the price of their salvation would be his own damnation. With trembling hands, Jeremiah placed the noose around his neck, his heart pounding in his chest. The spirits watched silently, their fate now inextricably linked to his. As the hangman's noose tightened around his throat, Jeremiah felt the darkness that had plagued Dusty Gulch begin to lift. The curse of the dead man's hand was unraveling, its power waning with each ragged breath he took. With his final, gasping breath, Jeremiah severed the bonds of the curse, and the spirits of his victims were set free. The town of Dusty Gulch, once shrouded in darkness and despair, began to heal as the malignant energy that had consumed it dissipated into the night. As word of Jeremiah's sacrifice spread, the citizens of Dusty Gulch mourned the loss of their hangman and the terrible price he had paid for their salvation. The gruesome murders ceased, and life in the once tormented town slowly returned to normal. In time, the tale of the hangman's noose became a legend, a somber reminder of the power of redemption and the cost of vengeance. The gallows where Jeremiah had met his end were left standing as a memorial, a testament to the man who had confronted his own dark past to save the souls of the town he loved. And as the wine continued to whisper through the dusty streets of Dusty Gulch, it carried with it the echoes of the hangman's noose, a haunting melody that spoke of sacrifice, redemption, and the fragile line between good and evil. The Soul Collector. In the small town of Widder's Hollow, nestled in the unforgiving shadows of the Badlands, an ancient curse had taken root. The wandering spirit of Red-Eyed Roderick, a notorious gunslinger who once wielded the dead man's hand, was cursed to walk the earth, seeking vengeance on those who had wronged him in life. With each soul he claimed, the power of the cursed hand grew stronger, drawing the spirit ever closer to the eternal rest he so desperately craved. But the darkness within the hand began to spread, its reach stretching far beyond the desolate town and threatening to engulf the world in its sinister grip. As the body count rose and the spirit's power grew, the fate of the world hung in the balance. It fell upon the shoulders of an unlikely hero to break the curse and put an end to the Soul Collector's terrifying reign. That hero was a timid schoolteacher named Eleanor, who had been plagued by haunting dreams of Roderick's tormented soul. Eleanor had never believed in curses or vengeful spirits, but as the dreams became more vivid and the deaths more gruesome, she could no longer deny the truth. Armed with nothing but her wits and an unshakable determination to save her town, Eleanor set out on a perilous quest to confront the Soul Collector. Her journey led her through the darkest corners of Widow's Hollow, where the whispers of the dead filled the air, and the shadows seemed to come alive. At every turn, the cursed gunslinger challenged her, his spectral form appearing like a wraith in the darkness. With each encounter, Eleanor grew stronger, her resolve hardened by the knowledge that the fate of the world rested on her shoulders. She sought the guidance of the town's elder, a wise woman who had witnessed the birth of the curse and knew the secret to breaking its hold. The elder revealed to Eleanor the truth behind the dead man's hand and the price that must be paid to set Roderick's soul free. The hand had been bound to the spirit by a dark ritual fueled by the pain and suffering of its victims. To break the curse, Eleanor must confront the spirit and offer him a chance at redemption, a chance to right the wrongs of his past and find peace in the afterlife. With a heavy heart, Eleanor faced the spirit of red-eyed Roderick one final time, her eyes filled with compassion and sorrow. She offered him a choice: to continue his vengeful crusade and risk the world's destruction, or to accept her offer of redemption and find the peace he had long been denied. The spirit hesitated, torn between the lure of vengeance and the promise of eternal rest, and as the darkness of the dead man's hand threatened to consume them both, Eleanor reached out to the spirit, her voice a beacon of hope amidst the shadows. In that moment, the spirit made his choice. He relinquished his hold on the cursed hand, allowing the darkness to dissipate into the ether. As his spectral form began to fade, the spirit of red-eyed Roderick found solace in Eleanor's unwavering faith and the promise of a better tomorrow. The curse of the Soul Collector was broken, and the world was saved from the brink of destruction. In the years that followed, the tale of Eleanor and her brave stand against the darkness became a legend, a testament to the power of redemption and the indomitable strength of the human spirit. The Unforgiving Cards. A storm raged over the hills, the thunderclaps echoing like the drums of war as lightning tore the sky asunder. It was on this ill-fated night that a group of strangers found themselves seeking refuge in a desolate mansion, its imposing silhouette standing defiantly against the storm. With the rain lashing against the windows and the wind howling through the halls, the strangers huddled together in the dusty parlor, seeking solace in the company of their fellow travelers. To pass the time, they decided to play cards, little realizing the dark power were about to unleash. As the strangers played, they became aware of an ominous presence in the room. The shadows seemed to grow darker, the air colder. It was then that they noticed the ancient deck of cards they had been using, the worn and yellowed faces marked with the unmistakable symbol of the dead man's hand. Unbeknownst to them, they had unwittingly summoned the curse of the hand, and as the final card was played, the mansion began to transform. The once-grand halls twisted and warped, becoming a nightmarish maze filled with horrors beyond their wildest imagination. Each room they entered revealed a new ghastly fate, tied to the players' darkest secrets. One by one, the strangers were forced to confront their sins, the lies they had told, the hearts they had broken, the lives they had destroyed. With each revelation, the curse tightened its grip, feeding on their guilt and fear. As the survivors struggled to navigate the mansion's ever-shifting corridors, they began to unravel the mystery of the dead man's hand. A curse, they discovered, was a test, a trial meant to force them to confront the darkness within themselves, and if they were able to find redemption. Driven by a desperate need for survival and a hope for absolution, the remaining strangers banded together, determined to break the curse that held them captive. They faced their demons, both figurative and literal, and fought their way through the mansion's twisted labyrinth. With each conquered fear, the curse began to weaken. The walls of the mansion shuddered and groaned at the power that had transformed them, waning with each passing moment. And as the final secret was laid bare, the curse was broken, and the mansion returned to its original state. As the storm outside abated, the survivors emerged from the now quiet mansion, forever changed by their ordeal. They had confronted their darkest secrets, faced their sins, and found a measure of redemption within the unforgiving halls of the cursed mansion. The tale of the unforgiving cards would become a chilling legend, whispered among travelers and townsfolk alike. A story of redemption and horror, a warning of the power that lay dormant within the cursed hand and the darkness that lurked within the hearts of men.